spoke to Shiloh last week, actually. He was saying to me that one of the things that I guess is confronting international students is you don't really know how to approach the local market, I guess, at the best of times. And now, obviously, with the pandemic, it's getting a lot harder for yourself. So I'm really encouraging everyone on here to make this an interactive session. I can probably talk at you guys, but I think you're going to get the best value out of me if you keep asking questions. And Shalab and Shlok, I might let you guys kind of look at that and come to me if there's anyone asking any questions. I'm happy to stop kind of the presentation halfway to see what's going on and answer any questions as we go. And please ask me anything career orientated. It doesn't necessarily need to be on resumes. It can be on interviews if you've got one coming up and you've got any questions. So look, I don't have any slides or anything for you guys. I do encourage you all to reach out to me at the end, and I'll leave my contact details, and I'm happy to give you guys a copy of my resume template for a little bit less than what I normally give out to all my clients. So I guess one of the main things, and it's something that actually Shilab said to me, and it's something that's very common amongst international students, is the myth, I believe, that the minute a recruiter or an employer sees your name, are you going to be out of the running for a job because it automatically means you're an international student? And the short answer to that, as I said to Charlotte Mishloka that day, is no. As you can see, my name is Narmie. And I've been a recruiter as well, guys, before I became a career and interview confidence coach. So I've been on that side of the table as well. A lot of the times, believe it or not, your resume doesn't actually even get in front of a recruiter because your resume isn't what we call applicant tracking system compliant. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard it. It would also be known as ATS. Some people call it artificial intelligence, but it's effectively the database that a lot of recruiters and bigger companies are using to pass resumes through to them so that they're not sitting there going through hundreds and sometimes thousands of applications for a particular job. So what they effectively do is once they put up a job, they will tell their database, look, if a resume comes in, make sure you're filtering out resumes that have certain keywords in it. So we want those resumes sent through to us. So one of the things I always encourage is, it used to be that you could have one stock standard resume and send that out, and no matter what, that resume, you would be fine. That is no longer applicable anymore, guys. You have to spend a good 10 to 15 minutes on every application that you do. Make sure you read the job description thoroughly to see where and what keywords are constantly flowing through that job description. And it becomes very, very prevalent what kind of a person that these people are looking for. So don't go to the other extreme where you sit there and make your CV full of keywords, because that'll get you rejected as well. But just make sure that when you're talking about your job or certain achievements, that you're picking up the keywords that they've got in the advertisement and maybe swapping a few words here and there, so that really comes through in your CV. So that's a quick tip for all you guys on that one. Secondly, I do know that a lot of international students tend to put their photos on resumes. Guys, that is a big, big no-no. It's not something we want here. It does actively promote discrimination. And so definitely don't put that on there. But also on top of that, the applicant tracking system will reject your CV instantly. So you may be the perfect candidate for the job, but because you've got your photo on there, the recruiter may not even see it. Another one for you guys, I've seen people want to make their resumes nice and fancy because you think, great, that's going to get me in front of the recruiter. Guys, unless you're in that type of industry, so I'm talking people that are in graphic design, people in social media potentially, you could get away with having a very, very nice, fun, exciting CV, but once again, if it's going to a recruiter, if it's something that you need to upload, guys, it's going through an applicant tracking system, it will be rejected. Funnily enough, the rule of thumb is the more black and white and plain Jane that your CV is, the more likely it is that your recruiter will actually see your resume. And then the final tip, I guess, in terms of resumes, is a lot of people like to put tables, graphs, rows, columns, all those things in your CV. Once again, guys, big no. We're not really sure why, but the applicant tracking system will actually mash it all up. So what's at the beginning will go at the end, what's at the end will go at the beginning, and once again, you'll be an instant rejection. So those are kind of my really quick tips on getting your CV, I guess, through the first stage and actually getting it in front of a recruiter, in front of a human being, so that they will actually read your CV. The other thing is, one of the biggest things in CVs is, guys, you've all been told to put in a professional statement. Those are wordings of the old times, probably about a year ago to a year and a half ago. You now want to be putting in something that we call a capability statement. It's a very subtle difference, but the professional statement tends to be all about you and how great you are and how amazing you are and what you want the company to do for you. It's no longer applicable nowadays, guys. Companies want to know, what can you do for them? And that's where your capability statement's coming through. It's also what I tend to call a little elevator pitch when you go for an interview and they say, tell us about yourself, that infamous interview question that we've all heard and practiced in our times. That should be what your capability statement says. It's a short, sharp 2 to 3 line thing of, I am, for example, if you're a marketer with 20 years experience, you want to say that in, then you want to say, I am a marketer with 20 years experience working for multinational companies such as whoever they may have been. And in that time, I have achieved A, B, C, D. Whereas if you're going to compare that with somebody who's gone, I'm an international, I'm a marketer, have been with an international company for 20 years, and I want to work for a company that's going to challenge me, So I'm not sure if you guys are getting this, and please start putting things in chat, but can you see there's subtle differences between a capability statement and a professional statement that you guys really want to start incorporating into your resume to make sure you're grabbing the attention of your employer, because you're spending so much time preparing your resume, guys, one. Two, and I guess more importantly, as you can see, it takes a lot just to get through the applicant tracking system. And then once you're in front of your potential employer, the last thing you want is for them, and you probably literally have about 3 to 5 seconds. I think I used to spend a maximum of 30 seconds per CV. So you can see how quickly recruiters will go through a CV. And so you want your capability statement to really just grab their attention and go, you want to look at the rest of my CV. You want to see what else I have to offer you. And then, you'll then have different sections in there on, I guess, your experience. Once again, guys, your experience should not be a job description. If I want a job description, I will go and get myself a job description. I want to know, as do every other employer and recruiter out there, what have you achieved in that job? So something as simple as, I say you're an accountant or you've been working for an accounting firm, something as simple as, I do spreadsheets or I use Excel to come up with budgets. That's great, but how does that make you different to the person over here who also uses, spreadsheets and stuff to do budgets? Whereas if you can add an achievement in there and say, I use spreadsheets to come up with the budget, which has improved efficiency in our business by 10%. Wow, that's gonna instantly grab the attention of a prospective recruiter or an employer because you're highlighting achievements that you've got. Numbers are great. Use them as much as possible throughout your CV. And all those things, achievements, numbers, awards, you want to have them in your CV. They will grab the attention of your recruiter and it'll progress you through to the next round, guys, for sure. Now, there's probably some of you on here, so I'll address all of you guys as well who may not have any work experience and are probably sitting there going, that's great for all of you who've got professional experience, but what about us that haven't? Well, in some way, shape, or form, you would have done something in your life, whether it be at college or at university, where you've done, you've worked on projects, you've done volunteer work, you've been part of groups. And if you haven't, guys, get out there and start joining some groups, start volunteering your time, because you may not have the professional experience, but you can achieve so much when you're joining groups. You can achieve so much when you're joining voluntary organizations. And joining voluntary organizations is a fantastic way of showing a prospective employer that you've got the initiative, you've got the drive, you're a self-starter, and those are things that employers nowadays are craving for. They want people like that. So look, there's a few tips and tricks for you guys, but I am going to push it back out to you guys to see if there's any questions that any of you have at the moment that I can answer. Or
No, I have one question. What will be the perfect order to put in a resume? This is a very basic question that most of us have, because some of us have with experience, some of us maybe without experience. So what will be the perfect order for us to build a resume?
Yeah, so you should always start off the resume. And like I said, I'll leave my details and I'll send, whoever wants it can get my template. So you always want to have your name, your email address, your LinkedIn profile. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. If you do not have a LinkedIn profile, get on there, get a LinkedIn profile. It is where the job markets are headed at the moment. Just as a quick little bystander. So you want to have that at the front. Straight under that, you want to have your capability statement. So that short, punchy, 2 to 3 sentences of how great you are and what you can offer the company. Following that, you want to have your professional experience, followed by your personal, so your voluntary, your education, your certifications. Your CV, guys, should not go more than 2 pages. Most of you have less than 20 years experience in here, so your CV should definitely not go more than 2 pages long as a basic rule of thumb. Anyone on here that may potentially have 20 years or more experience, we can go for 3 years, but even then it's a stretch. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So and references, I know that's a big one. Everyone tells you to put your references on there. Guys, no, definitely no. You do not want to put your references on your CV. What you want to do is have a section titled references right at the bottom, and then just let them know we can advise this, as per your request or whatever it is. And let them come to you when the time is ready for your references. That should probably be the second to last thing that anyone should ever ask you for, is names and details of your references. Yeah.
I have another question. Sorry, I'll be asking multiple questions on behalf of most of them over here. So when we talk about the references part, most of us don't have professional references as well. So, and especially not a reference in the same organization, which many of the recruiters ask you for. So how to deal with that situation?
So what do you mean you don't have references from the same organization? Explain that to me in a little bit more detail.
Like let's say I'm applying for a company, Deloitte. Mm-hmm. They ask you to have some kind of references from the same company so that your resume is a bit pushed up.
Right.
This is what I have heard. I am not sure about the market over here, to be very honest. So I can't give a statement out on this, but this is what I have heard. So when that is missing, or even for most of us, we only have a reference from our university faculties. We don't have a corporate experience, so we can't give a corporate professional reference. So how to tackle with that situation?
It's actually quite, so firstly, if they're asking you for a reference from the company that you're going to work for, that's very weird. And I would probably be questioning why they're asking for a reference for the, so for example, if you're going for Deloitte and they're saying, do you have a reference within Deloitte's? That's very weird. And I would be questioning that unless you've come through as a referral from somebody in Deloitte's. And if people are asking you that, you would probably want to be questioning whether or not that's a company you want to be working for as well. Then secondly, look, totally understand most of you probably don't have professional references, but guys, you got to understand the jobs you're applying for, once it gets to reference stage, the interviewer or your prospective employer knows that you're a graduate. They know what's on your resume. They know you don't have professional experience. So don't worry yourself about the fact that you don't have professional references. You can't make up something that you've never done. So be upfront, especially if it's a recruiter. Just be upfront with them and say, look, my references are somebody, you know, an old school teacher or an old professor from back home. I do have personal references I can give you, but no one in the professional sense. And once again, if people are pushing you to give professional references and you've never worked in a professional environment, then you want to be questioning whether that's a company you want to be working for as well, because they're essentially asking you to make something up, which is kind of a bit ridiculous. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions that I might be able to answer for you guys? No, very, very quiet group. Okay. All right. So I guess, look, let's touch a little bit on interviews, Shalab, since you did kind of bring that up anyway. My key to that is, guys, do not lie to get yourself an interview. So do not lie on your resume. Even though I do know that there's a lot of people out there, friends that will encourage you to kind of stretch the truth just that little bit. Don't do it. You will get caught out. Even at interviews, don't sell yourself more than what you know to do and what your capabilities are. Because even if you get through the interview stage, guys, once you start your job, you'll get caught out quite quickly. And in Australia, it's a very, very small market comparatively to, I guess, anywhere in the world. Burning bridges, especially because you've lied about something really basic, it's just not worth it. You're always better off just coming out and saying to them, like if they ask you a question, for example, tell us a time in your professional life where you've had an issue with a workmate. Now, some people just ask generic interview questions without actually realizing who they're interviewing. So you can just turn around and say, actually, I've never worked in a professional environment. I don't know how to, in real life, how that would look like. However, in my personal life back in college, I had a similar incident and this is how I answered it. Or, look, I'm not really sure how to answer that question because I've never been a part of that. But if I was to hypothesize, or, you know, this is what I think I would do in that particular situation. So you're honest with them that you've never done it, but you're also kind of giving them a backup on how you may potentially tackle the answer that they've, the question that they've asked you guys. Does that help? Just in terms of any, I guess, questions or things that may come up. Even phone interviews, guys, half the time phone interviews, remember, I know you guys are urgently looking for work. And remember, recruiters, it's their job 9 to 5 to just get on the phone and call people. So it's very easy when they call you, and I know I've been guilty of this, unfortunately, to be like, hey, it's Narmie, and you applied for this job, and blah, 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 blah. And they will talk really fast at you and probably almost start interviewing you without you realizing. Guys, if you're not in a position to be able to do the interview at the time, or you actually honestly don't even remember applying for the job, because I understand you're not applying for one job, you're probably applying for multiple jobs at this time, you can actually tell the recruiter, be honest and tell the recruiter, I'm really sorry, now is not a good time. Can we arrange a later time? Be aware that this does not put you at the back of the line. It does not mean that the recruiter will not call you again. You know, allay any fears that just because you're asking a recruiter or a potential HR manager to reschedule, that does not put you in a bad light. They would rather interview you at a time and place that's mutually convenient for both of you than you make up some rubbish on the spot and you get kicked out even though you're the perfect candidate for the job. So just keep that in mind as well, guys, because I know with international students especially, and like I said, the job market's quite competitive at the moment. You may think you need to do it, but you definitely don't. You definitely don't, because it's not your job to be interviewing 24/7. It's their job. And they will make the time, because remember, your resume has grabbed their attention. So they want to find out more about you. So it's a great time to spend the time with the recruiter. And you want to do that at a time that's convenient and good for you guys. Cool. Yes, Shalika.
So I have this small question before the interview round. So I had applied to Deloitte, and there is a game. I don't know what do you call it. I think you know what I'm talking about. We have to permutation and combination. We have to do all of that. The thing is,
Psychometric test.
psychometric testing. The thing is, I do not know how to crack it. I have never seen that before. So I would want to know how to go about that.
You and everybody else around. Psychometric testing. Yes, I've been through that myself as a candidate. So look, I totally get it. There is no right way or wrong way to go about it. I wish I had some magic formula. I think every recruiter under the sun wishes we had a magic formula for it. Psychometric testing, as I personally believe, are a little bit outdated, but bigger companies do it because it's another way for them to filter through. And the other reason psychometric testing is done is they're trying to make sure that you're giving consistent answers. So remember when I said, do not lie, do not stretch the truth, because you will get found out. So psychometric testing is, I guess, their way of making sure that you are telling the truth, and they're trying to understand your way of thinking. And I know once you've done the test, they send it off to their resident psychologists, and who will actually sit there and go against a matrix and da 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 da. But fortunately, there is no right way. There's no wrong way. You can practice it a million times and you potentially still fail. I've passed some, failed some, and pretty sure I answered the same question the same way every single time. So yeah, unfortunately, there's no magic answer for it.
But it wasn't like a survey or questions per se. It was, I don't know. It's really confusing because you don't know what to do in it. Psychometric testing, I have given psychometric tests before, but this is something that I had never seen before. This was the first thing. So how do they assess that? Because it's just that you have to drag a photo to a certain thing. I don't know what it is. How do they assess it?
My honest answer is I have no idea. I've never seen it before. As I said, unfortunately, it's the bigger companies, their way of kind of making sure how they can get it's their way of culling the process. So I'm pretty sure they would have said to you, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. A lot of the reason they're doing it is they're trying to work out your way of thinking, your way of interpretation, especially for the bigger guys like Deloitte's and stuff, because you do need to think outside of the box when you go to work for them, depending on what position. So they're just trying to get an understanding of the way your brain thinks, for lack of a better word. I do see that Shivan.
Hi.
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 Can I help?
Okay, so as far as psychometric testing is concerned, I too have attempted a few psychometric tests across a few companies back in India.
Yep.
And one of the patterns that I have noticed is consistency. Let's say if one of the questions asked is, let's say, are you a risk taker? And like 5 questions down the lane, they ask you like, would you like skydiving or sit in your room? And you say that I'd rather sit in my room. So that is something which you're not consistent with. You should have answered skydiving, because at first you said that you're a risk taker, but you're on the other hand, you want to sit in your room. I think that's one of the few patterns that I have noticed. And as far as drag and drop, as Shloka said about drag and drop images, across the grid or something like that, I think again, while attempting the answers, attempting those questions, you should have previous questions in mind, like how you have attempted those. Let's say if they want to place flower in a right corner, another living being or something like that should always be in the right corner. You can't put stone in the right corner if you like stone better.
No, it wasn't that I was talking about. So we have this question. They have a certain group of people in the first panel, and they said that you have this project and you have to make a team.
Mhm.
And I make a team according to how I see fit, according to their profile. And then we do that, they reject it. Like it doesn't drop into that panel
Mhm.
because it's not according to what they want.
So
And it's a time process. I'll show it
Yeah,
to you
sure.
the next
I
time,
would
but it's
love
not
that.
what you're talking to.
I would love that. But in that case, I think even companies' ideologies do matter. Companies have their own principles. Let's say some companies are very dynamic. I mean, they take decisions on the basis of, if senior manager takes quick decisions, then senior manager will be the one taking the decisions. But there are certain companies in which every single member of the team take decisions. So you must learn about the company first. Like this is also one of the few things that I've noticed in my earlier applications back home.
Yeah, very true. Very cool. I think Balu has also got his hand raised. If he wanted to ask a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I hope we have time for a couple more questions, or are we short on time? We're good?
Yeah, all good. I
Yes.
hope
All right.
they'll kick me off when they need to go.
Easy. Yeah. Thanks, Narmie, Ronan, and the rest of the team for organizing events like this to bring our confidence up with regards to interviews and the job market. So yeah, my question is with regard to a really common question that's being asked in interviews nowadays. It is the weaknesses, like what sort of weaknesses do you think you have? So where do you draw the line on lying and telling them that you don't really have a weakness, or you turn a strength into a weakness? Or do you just be genuine and really go all the way? What are your thoughts on that, Narmie?
Yeah, so I've actually got a video out on that one as well, which I encourage you to go have a look at. But look, great question. One of your greatest weaknesses is probably one of the most popular, I guess, interview questions out there. Definitely don't lie. If you turn around and tell them you don't have a weakness, you will probably be rejected from that interview on the spot. Everyone has a weakness. Number two, as I say, and I'm a firm believer in this, the cliche so-called weaknesses of I love working hard or I've got attention to detail, they've been done and dusted. People know their rehearsed answer. Don't do it. So what you want to do, and this is what I encourage my clients to do, is genuinely look at a weakness that you have. So for me, and I've said this on the video as well, one of my weaknesses is I do not like copywriting. I do not know how to do copywriting. It's not part of my business. So how I would answer the question is, look, one of my biggest weaknesses is copywriting. What I'm doing to overcome that weakness is, at the moment, is I'm actually undertaking further studies to learn how to improve copywriting going forward in my business. Short, sharp, to the point, But if you see, I've addressed that I have a weakness that is not considered, like I said, cliche. But I've also said to them, guys, yes, I know it's a weakness. I'm addressing my weaknesses. I'm not just sitting there going, well, I have a weakness and I'm not doing anything about it. So I'm telling them how I'm trying to turn that weakness into a strength that I can then use going forward. So that's what you want to be doing. And that really comes from interview practice as well. So one of the things I strongly encourage all of you is practice your interview skills. If you're applying for jobs, on top of doing your resumes, on top of doing your cover letters, on top of doing your LinkedIn profile, guys, you should be practicing your resume answers, either with a resume or with an interview coach, with each other. Resumes are a practiced skill. Interviews are a practice skill, and you need to get better at it, and it's something that's worked on. It's very few people can actually wing it when they get to an interview. Does that help, Balu?
Of course. Thanks.
Lovely, thanks.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Anyway, yep, Shivan.
Yeah, on a similar note, from Balu's question, what do we say when they ask about your strengths?
Yep, very, very similar. So you don't want to be talking about cliched ones, but talk about your strengths. But this is how you want to do your strengths. So you want your strengths to actually be professional strengths, and you want your strengths to almost be tailored to the job that you're going for. So give me an example of a job that you might be going for, and I can kind of give you.
Let's say business analyst.
Okay. So you can almost say that you love analyzing data. That is actually one of your skills. And the reason you know it's one of your strengths is because when you've done previous work, you've managed to analyze data in such a way and come up with a proposed solution. If you haven't, you can say, look, I love analyzing things in my personal life. Before I do something, I analyze it and I work out how I'm going to do it. And it's always propelled me forward in what I'm going to do next. Have 2 to 3 strengths. And yeah, you can almost tailor and have a backup situation with each of those strengths as well. I always say follow the STAR format. So situation, task, action, and result. So every example you have should incorporate those 4 key components. And so your strengths, when you talk about your strength, you say, this is a strength of mine because give the situation, give the quick task, quick action, and the result that came from it, so they can see how is it that you recognize that as a strength. Does that help?
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent.
Narmie, I guess Sandeep also has a question.
Yep. Perfect.
Hi. Thank you for giving this all the views about the resume and interview. So my question is, do we have to explain every part as an experience in our resume, like explaining everything, like what I have learned from this particular volunteering work or some job? And then do online courses like virtual internship or online course from LinkedIn Learning, do they really help and add to our resume? That's my question.
So I guess to answer your first question first, you never explain anything in a resume. Your resume should literally just be dot points. So what I was saying in that is, so if you're doing a voluntary job, but just say, for example, you're in charge of, say, payroll for that voluntary job, for example. You don't want to say, I do payroll. You want to say, I used to do accounts for looking after this many people. So you see how you're quantifying. So you're putting a number to your job description. Your resume should never be I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this. It should be short, sharp, and to the point. On my template, it's very, very, very easy to see. It's literally dot points that you cut and paste and pop your achievements in there. Now, in terms of LinkedIn courses and things like that, everything that you guys can do to put yourself ahead of the game is always a yes from me. So if it's an additional course that you believe is going to strengthen what you already have, then yeah, absolutely do it. Pop it down on there. If the recruiter or the employer doesn't understand what that is, then obviously they'll ask you. But where you want to do your explaining is in your cover letter, which is key nowadays, guys. It never used to be key. Cover letters nowadays are key to every single application you do. Even if it doesn't ask for you to send a cover letter, if you're sending the application as an email, quick tip, put your cover letter as the body to your email. They will read your email before they get to your resume. Or worst case scenario, put it as the first page of your resume. So they've got to scroll past your cover letter to read your resume. In my experience, I rely on cover letters a lot, especially Sandeep, as you were saying, if there's things that need explanation and I'm not going to get that from your resume, I will look at your cover letter to try and understand what's going on and why you haven't had professional experience, or why has it all been voluntary, or why have there been career gaps, or whatever it is.
And since we are talking about cover letter, like how big should we, like cover letters should we have, like 1 page or half page, like
4 paragraphs.
4 paragraphs. And I have seen that people who don't have experience, like us students, some of them add like percentage in their degree or from their undergrad. Should we do that or not? Like they add that I scored this much in my degree, or
Not in your cover letter, no. We don't. Recruiters don't care. Unless it specifically says it in the job description. Like if it specifically says we expect you to have attained blah, 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 then yes, but no. Your cover letters, so your cover letter shouldn't be a copy of your resume. Your cover letters have to complement your resume. So if there's career gaps, or if, for example, all you've done is studied, but you're trying to apply for your first job, which I'm guessing a lot of you are, your cover letter should almost answer the question as to why did you never go out and get a job? But how can you still tell me that you're going to be able to do the job that I've posted up? So that's what your cover letter should be addressing.
sometimes we have like so many online courses or volunteering work, like 12 or 13. Should we put all those in a resume? Like when we put it seems like we have put all the volunteering work and online, just that like half a page of that online courses and all. Should we do that, or just mention the specific ones, like those are relevant to that job?
100%. I would only put the ones that are relevant. 100%.
Thank you.
Narmie, Roland here. I just wanted to just take a moment. That's been absolutely amazing so far in terms of value you've given everybody. I wanted to check in on your time. Very mindful. I know you've got some other commitments today. How are you doing?
I'm good for another 10 minutes, and then I'll have to jump off.
Okay.
Rohan, we'll take one last question from Gideon and then let's finish it off.
That sounds great. Yes. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you. Thanks, Narmie.
All good. Gideon, how can I help?
Yeah, hi, Naomi. Naomi, right?
Darby, yes.
Naomi, okay. So, Naomi, thank you so much. Once again, like one important thing I learned was like the ADS. I didn't know about that, but it's very helpful. So, two things I wanted to ask, like, okay, so when you say don't add the descriptions so much in your CVs, and instead add, focus more on the achievement part. But then we need to, when we mention, okay, I've done this so and so in my job, we do need to also describe what the job is about. The job title itself doesn't explain everything. Just this thing, how much should I focus on the description also, just that first part. And the second one was, I have applied for, I've gone for a few interviews, and the cultural difference for me was the first one was a bit of shock. The first interview was a bit of shock because it was a very informal sort of a thing. Back in India where I worked, it was very formal. They'll ask you, it's a very starey gazed this thing. They don't smile or this thing. Here it was like, a very, very informal thing. So yeah, I'm sure you must have, coached a lot of people or, advised a lot of people because of this cross-cultural thing. So I just wanted to ask, like, what are the pointers? The second one is that, like, what pointers is it as in interviews? And the first one is the how much should I focus on the description? Yeah.
Focus very, very little on the job description. That's my answer to you. Because, as I said, as a recruiter, I can gauge from, look, if your job title is really, really vague, remember, guys, just because your job title says something doesn't mean that needs to be the job title that you put on your resume. If you're actually a business analyst, but some companies like to make up very, very creative names, you can actually put your job title down as a business analyst. So, whoever reads your resume will pick that up. And then you can even, in the interview, you can say, look, I am a business analyst, but in my job, they call me this. So they will get that. We understand that.
Okay. Yeah.
Job descriptions, and look, it's a very fine line when I say don't use a job description. So yes, we do want to know what you do in your day-to-day job, 100%. But what I'm saying is back it up with figures, back it up with achievements. So if you're going to tell me that you worked in a call center, great. And rather than saying I was in charge of inbound calls, well, yes, I was the other person that's applied for a call center job. But if you tell me I used to handle 120 inbound calls a day, see how you're telling me the same thing, but you've added a quantity to it. So now I know that's how many calls you were capable of handling versus somebody else who's just gone, I did inbound calls. So you've told me the same thing, but you're standing out because I don't need to then come back to you in an interview to go, so how many did you actually do? So the reason you want to quantify things in your resume, guys, make the life of a recruiter and an employer as easy as possible. Make it easy for us to go, I want to find out more. I want to talk to this person because what you've written in there has stood out. Not because I've got to go on a fact-finding mission now to chat to you to find out, okay, so exactly what did you do? How many calls? How did you do with customer resolutions? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like kind of like value add with your achievements into your description title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the second part was with the cultural differences. There's heaps. And I've been, in my book, I've kind of addressed the various types of different interviews that you can go for. In general, Australia does have a much more relaxed culture around interviews than I guess what you guys have back home. That can be good, but it can also be quite deceiving. And as I said, you haven't practiced for it. Because a lot of the reason they're very friendly and they're very nice, like the way I'm talking to you guys is the way I used to interview everybody. I'm very relaxed. I'm very chilled. I'll have a conversation with you. It's because, remember, the interview is a two-step process. I'm wanting to find out about you as much as you want to find out about me. So if you're going to be working for me and I come across as really like uptight and, no expression and whatever, then that might not be how I am naturally. But if that's the impression I'm giving you, you're going to walk away from the interview going, is that really the type of person I want to be working with on a day-to-day basis? Somebody who's poker faced and not talking to me and not giving me anything. Vice versa, the outgoing, friendly, chatty bot may not be suited for you either. If you're very introverted and very held back, you may be like, oh God, that was just too much for me. I don't know how to handle that. So culturally, but also people are very different as well. So I would also say yes, the way we interview people in general in Australia, but yes, there are quite a few people who will do it very formally. You will walk away from the interview going, I got nothing from that. I think they hated me, and I've had those interviews, and then they've called me up later to go, oh my God, we loved you. And I'm like, really? Because I got nothing from you that entire interview. So practice the various types. Getting an interview coach, especially if you guys are from overseas, is helpful, at least for your first 2 interviews, to help you, I guess, overcome the cultural barriers that you were just talking about, knowing the differences of an interview from back home versus an interview here in Australia. But yeah, I hope, did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of good points. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Sam.
All right, I better give it back to Rona before he never invites me anywhere again, because that takes up too much time.
No, it's mindful of your time. And Narmie, that's been absolutely amazing. I can see everyone has stayed, okay? Like, this is a testament to the value you have shared, Narmie. And you've shared so much wisdom there and very practical tips as well. Narmie, a couple of questions. How could people engage with you afterwards if they wanted to take on some coaching? What options do you provide, Narmie?
Yeah, guys, I've got 4 different options. So I help you guys out with everything from your resumes through to your cover letters, your LinkedIn profile. And I know I keep stressing this, but please get on LinkedIn in any way, shape or form, all the way through to your interview coaching and helping you guys out, even if you're in the stage, I guess, of not understanding what you want to do with your careers. You may have learned something, but you're passionate about something else. So how are we going to marry that up? That's something I can help you guys up with. My website is in the process of being made, but it's narmieth.com, so that lists my services for you. And my email address is literally Narmie, Narmie, at narmieth.com. For all of you that would like to, as I said, for Cred and for anyone that's here on this thing, I'm happy to offer my template to you guys at a discount, a much reduced discount to what I would normally offer my clients. So if you do reach out to me, please put on the subject line that you were on this, so that I'll know where you guys are reaching out to me from, and I would love to help each and every one of you out.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Narmie. And on behalf of the Cred community and the students here today, thank you very much for generously giving your time and all that wisdom. And I'm sure there's lots of value for the student community. Thank you, Narmie.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity as well to all of you guys. Thanks heaps. And
can I pass back to Shloka just to complete for our session. Shloka, can you come off mute and just talk about our speaker this week and the next steps? Thank you, Shloka.
Yeah. So I would like to thank Narmie. Ronan has obviously thanked her already. So moving on, I will tell you our weekly speaker for this week is Anushka. She's the founder and CEO of Global CQ and Australia India Chamber of Commerce. And she'll be talking about Connect and how that helps with our mental health. Then the next week we have Kevin, who will talk about focus. And please stay tuned for all of the updates on our social media channels. And of course, we would love if you want to share anything with Cred or with Narmie about your career on your Facebook, however you can connect with Narmie. She has obviously given the options. And I'd also like to encourage all of you to sign up for Cred and keep updating Cred mobile app and put your daily actions so that it helps you give accountability and helps you go through the day. Join us for the webinar at 1 p.m. and that's all. Thanks all of you for joining us. I'll pass it over to Ronan again.
Thank you, Shloka. And once more, thank you to Shalab and Shloka for creating this opportunity. Thank you for Narmie for being here with us today. Thank you for the wonderful partners, Sullivan Foundation, GSA, Global CQ, AGSM, and the Australia India Chamber. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you on Wednesday for a guest speaker and on Friday to help you complete your week. Have a great week. Thank you. Bye.